Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week I thought it was time for a day out. See you in a minute. So I thought, having decided I was going to build a cycle cart and chosen a prototypical car, I would try and kill two birds in one stone by going and visiting the prototype car, which I'm fortunate enough to be able to do, and go and look at some cycle carts in action. And again, this is something I've not had any first-hand experience of in the flesh, so I thought we'd have a day out and go and kill two birds with one stone. Now, the British Heritage Motor Museum is at Gaydon in Warwickshire. It's just off the M40, and it's something that was established basically using some of the premier British brands of or motor car manufacturers, using their own sort of stock of vehicles that they had that were the show cars that they had and typical examples of. And it was the Austin, Morris, MG, the old British Motor Corporation, which then went back into Rover, Jaguar, Land Rover, all that sort of thing. So it houses quite a collection of most of the famous British marques in a very nice building, which a few weeks ago now will have been the scene of the very first inaugural meeting of the UK cycle karting fraternity. It had been a reasonably loose organisation of mates up until that point, but it became formalised here on the 5th of March. And it's got all sorts of things in there, from they've got the Land Rover conversions that were done for a Judge Dredd movie. They've got Lady Penelope's, I think it was a Ford based car from one of the films, and it's got examples of most of the iconic British motor industry vehicles. I always tend to go straight into the Austin 7s because that is the love of my life, and they've got in there the BMW Dixies, the Austin 7s. The BMWs were built under license in Germany. The Swallow, which is SS sidecars originally, Swallow sidecars, then later became Jaguar, and a selection of chummies and things like that, Austin 7 Tourers, Bullnose Morris, and here you can see the Lady Penelope car, the Judge Dredd car, some of the British racing cars, and not least but most importantly for me, the Austin 7 racers. There's two of the team here, the little side valve blue one that Kay used to drive, and the twin cam racer that I'm modelling basically my kart on. So I had a good look around that, taking lots of photographs, lots of detail, close-ups, just getting the feel of the thing and seeing how much of it I was likely to be able to replicate, and how much of it was going to have to be a bit of artistic license, if you like. Certainly all the front suspension and steering arrangements are far more complex than we would normally have on a cycle cart, so I'm going to simplify those and hopefully keep them in the spirit, in the character of, but not the same. And the same with the back, because I'm putting an A-shaped frame on mine, it will splay out towards the back wheels more, and it means I'll be able to have a similar sort of arrangement as the rear springs on the cycle, on the original Austin 7 racer at the back, but they will in fact be dummies, just cloaking the chassis more than anything. But it's in remarkable condition. It's probably a little bit too good a condition, really. It's not in the sort of condition it should be in if it was a working racing car, if you like, so there may have to be a bit of work done to dirty mine down a bit. And then I took a ride out. It was a beautiful day, summer's day, down to Castlecombe racetrack, where a bit of a argy-bargy to get in, but once we got the man in the gate to open up for us. I drove through. The Mini, I think, belongs to Ivor Dutton, who has got some pretty good videos up on YouTube and was there with us. A very famous Bugatti man. And then, talking of Bugattis, I got my first glimpse of these things in the flesh when Stefan came the other way in his Bugatti Cyclecar. And then a quick drive through to the track where there was a bit of parking and what was effectively the pits for all of the cycle carts that were there. I think there were about 8 or 9 there, and it gave me a chance again to have a walk round, see what was what, get a feel of these things, get the scale of them, because it's difficult to see from photographs on the forums and builds. You can't quite get that sense of what they are in terms of size, and certainly not of enjoyment. And there were quite a lot of them there, just all getting ready now to go out and find the track, get themselves set up to have a blast around. They'd all got timing tags fitted onto them, I think by Cyclecar kart circuit, so that there was an idea that they could get some timings for laps, but they all basically had a drive up to the pits to start with and get a driver's briefing before they could get launched into the scale of things properly. The blue Austin 7 single seat racer, and some very nice cycle carts getting thrown around pretty aggressively. Jim Tanner's Dodge. It's quite a small track, quite steep uphill, a lot of corners, but of course that was ideal for this sort of thing. They could get throwing these things around without too much problem. I think they'd tend to get lost on anything much bigger by way of a track. What surprised me was that there is some timing things fitted to the carts, and there is obviously a speed trap somewhere, which I suspect is either this little bit of downhill before going into that hut, or on the uphill stretch, and I'm not sure which it is, but they were getting speeds of up to 40 miles an hour, which surprised me given the short run they had at. If it's the downhill bit, there was a very short run at it, and if it's the uphill bit, it's pretty good getting those sort of speeds up when you're going uphill with them. So it wasn't just playing with toys, it was some fairly serious speeds getting up with these things, considering they're built by hand, and you do tend to hopefully get a bit of enjoyment out of them with the fact that you've effectively taking your life in your own hands. You've built this thing, you've better make sure it's safe and not going to let you down. Cyclecar kart circuit had provided a couple of marshals to keep an eye on things as well, which is just all for the good of the safety in these things. One of the advantages of using the kart circuits is that you've got something which is designed for this sort of use, even if it's not with these particular. It's normally for go-karts, which are smaller and probably faster, but it means you've got good safety barriers and tyre walls all the way around. And we're running in groups of about 6 at a time on the track. Little pit area at the top. and I know from my use of the three-wheeler Hetty, which is, you know, used on the road and probably will not do much more than about 55 or 60, that when you're that low down to the ground in something, it feels pretty much twice as fast as it really is anyway. So there's a huge amount of enjoyment from not necessarily travelling as fast as you think you're going. So effectively I'd had a good look at the inspirational car in the morning, and I came down and found the karts in the afternoon, and it basically just secured my desire to build one. I've seen folks having so much fun with relatively limited resources for a long while, so I think it's definitely the way forward as a cheap form of motorsport that is relatively inexpensive, doesn't need a huge amount of resource. Most of them have got trailers or vans to bring them, but that is something I'm going to have to sort out as to how we transport. But the first thing to do is to get a kart built and worry about how to get it to events later on. I'm hoping that a rolling chassis, which is the first stage I want to be in, might just squeeze into the car. I don't think I'll be able to get the nose and the tail in, as I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, but I do think for just getting a rolling chassis, even if I have to take the front wheels off, I think I'll be able to get it inside the car. Certainly widthways it'll fit, and if it has to hang out a little bit, we'll have to see how we get on with that to keep the exhaust fumes out. Most of the folks were there, I think, just to have fun, whilst there is an element of competition in these things in terms of driving them. I think it's more than friendly rather than aggressive competition. So that's it. I've seen the car, which I really enjoyed, and it just reinforces my desire to build it. And I've been and seen the guys enjoying themselves with the cycle karts, and I thought it was quite telling. So we were at Castle Combe, which was at the go-kart track, which is adjacent to the main car racetrack. And I thought it was quite interesting that I'm sure the guys that were on the go-kart track with karts that had cost, you know, £1,000 or so for a 50 quid day out were having far more fun than the blokes in their multi-million pound supercars that going around on the Castle Combe track. They'd probably paid a couple of £300 for a track day. I don't know what they cost nowadays. But it all seemed very sterile. You saw them going past, but it all looked very safe and controlled, and people were in their little cocoons in the car, not really being able to even push them on a racetrack to the extent that the guys in the cycle karts were getting them sideways on and occasionally getting them up on two wheels. So I think it just reinforced the whole desire to do it, and it was very useful for that, and it was a nice day out as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be doing something different on the cycle kart. I'll see you then.